which I'm obsessed with. I love it. I'm so here for it. But I've literally just invested, I'm not wearing it right now, but I've literally just invested, if you look at the logo for this pod, in the latest hoodie, which is now not the latest hoodie. Welcome back to the Arsenal Humans podcast with me, Luce. If you're watching on YouTube right now, you'll be able to tell that I'm holding the mic. Might seem a little bit weird. I feel a little bit like, ooh, get it? I don't know how I feel about it. If you're an audio listener, you have no idea what I'm chatting about right now, but I'm hoping the sound quality is a lot better than last week. Obviously, this is kind of just a basic mic. It does the job, and well, hopefully it's doing the job and it's doing it justice. But you know what? If I feel more comfortable with this pod, and depending on what direction this pod goes in, I might invest in another mic. I quite like the look of the ones that are like the proper pods where they come in from the side angle. I feel like I'm quite fidgety. I'm always moving about, and you could definitely hear that in the last episode with all the little clicks. So I'm hoping this episode's calm. Anyways, enough about waffling about a mic. What's happening today? So on today's show, we're going to be going for a poll. I've done it based on Arsenal kits because they're dropping every single week, it feels like. I can't even keep up. So quite an interesting one that I want to put out there. I mean, I've already put the poll out there, so it'll be interesting to see what you guys have voted for that. And then obviously we'll look at the 3 games that happened. So we had the Men's Champions League game, the Premier League game, and the WSL game all in one week. And as an Arsenal fan, I'm feeling pretty mixed right now because some results I'm very happy with, obviously the WSL one, and then some that I'm a bit not sure about how to feel looking at the men's team when I say that. So it would be good to dive into that and reflect on the week with those games, but also it will be good to look ahead to the next week's games, which is how I round it up. Obviously the men are going into their international break, which means that they won't have any fixtures for Arsenal, but obviously can still see what they're going to be doing in episode 3. But it does mean that we have full focus on the women's team because we are playing in the Champions League and in the league in the WSL. So that is pretty exciting that we'll get more attraction to those games because they definitely deserve it. And you know what? We're very lucky as Gooners that we get to watch 2 beautiful games, hopefully, of football this week. So, you know, it's a pretty good time to be alive if you ask me. But anyways, without me waffling on, let's get into the episode. Okay, let's have a cheeky little look at this poll, shall we? Before I actually reveal the results, realise I haven't told you guys the question. And if you haven't seen my Instagram, which is lucechats.sport, in case you wanted to vote for any future polls, then go over there and all the polls will be revealed on a Sunday evening or maybe Monday morning. We'll see how last minute I am. The question for this week was, are Arsenal releasing too many kits? See, this just came off the back of Adidas and Arsenal dropping a retro style kit, which I'm obsessed with. I love it. I'm so here for it. But I've literally just invested, I'm not wearing it right now, but I've literally just invested, if you look at the logo for this pod, in the latest hoodie, which is now not the latest hoodie because they're creating them all the time. I basically just wanted to put it out there, see what your guys' opinions are, because I know I have mostly Gooners as followers on Instagram. So let's have a wee look at the results. This is good, actually. This is very, very, very uneven. 73% of you said yes, Arsenal are releasing too many kits, and only 27% said no. So I want to get into it. I want to see. Obviously, I can't hear your thoughts or your reasoning. Maybe actually, this is just a thought popped into my head right now. Maybe next time, if you guys have any opinions that you want to write on there, then obviously comment and I'll read them out, because I feel like right now it's obviously just a yes or no, and you could have so many different reasons for saying yes and so many reasons for saying no. When I put that poll out, it was because I think yes. I completely agree that people have spoken once again, completely agree that Arsenal are releasing too many kits. I love them. I'm obsessed with them. Does my bank account like them? Absolutely not. Does the environment like it? Not really either. And I think this is what, without going too deep, but I think it's important to touch upon these issues as well, is that in terms of sustainability and slow fashion, which is propelling the world, it should be right now. I feel like I consume a lot of slow fashion content, predominantly because my sister, which is So Lots. I'm sure you've seen her on my feed if you follow her as well, or if you follow me, you would have seen her. She's very heavy on slow fashion and basically helping the environment whilst creating new garments. She uses crochet to do that with scrap materials usually, and I think it's a good way to basically use the materials we already have without damaging the environment, but creating new products. And obviously with Arsenal, their turnover, they're producing so many kits, and the amount of hoodies, when I went into the Arsenal shop the other day, the amount of hoodies that were still there is crazy, because I'm like, what happens to all of these hoodies? I mean, I'll happily volunteer to take a few spare ones, but on a real, where are they going? I'd hate to think that they're just going to be chucked away or thrown somewhere like a landfill, which obviously we know a lot of fast fashion brands, they end up going there. So I think on a deeper level, the production of the creation of lots of kits by Arsenal is maybe not the wisest choice, because I don't think the environment really needs any more clothes to be pumped out into it. But I do understand that obviously clubs are competing against each other, and almost how you look is a competition in itself. I think Arsenal are definitely winning with that. I don't think anyone can really argue with me. We are leading in terms of the kits. We always look fresh. We always look modern, new, but also most of the kits recently have a bit of a retro twist to them. I mean, obviously, our kit itself for this season is the year of the cannon. So, yes, first reason for why I agree with yes is sustainability and saving the environment, basically. And the second one is financially. I don't think it's fair, because I know I'm one of many fans that can't afford to be buying these kits every season, like the home kit every season, let alone the home, the away, then the third kit, then there's another kit released every 3 weeks, it feels like at this point. I can't afford it, and I'd love to be able to do that, but it's just feeding into this idea of consumerism. And I don't know whether it's healthy, because I know that you see a lot of people able to get the latest kit and then they put it on socials, and it makes other fans probably feel bad that they haven't got them, because they maybe feel like they're missing out. But what I think puts Arsenal away from the other teams right now is the kits we wear. I mean, you can't really focus, obviously football you focus on the pitch, and there's so much controversy around whether we'll bottle it, whether we'll win it, what's going to happen with that, both for the Premier League and WSL. But one thing you can guarantee is that we're going to have the freshest kits, and I'm really here for it. I'm loving the kits. I do just think we need to almost cut back with the kits, and make them more special, because we've got fewer ones. I mean, if you look at teams like, I know Brentford, Luton, this is going back a couple of seasons, but I'm pretty sure they still do it where they would have one kit every 2 years. So then that means that their fans are able to afford the kits. Obviously, there's an environmental perk to that as well. And I think that's just healthier, gives them their brand identity, and it focuses more on what's happening on the pitch. But I also do think that with this fashion football fusion that I think we're seeing even more now, it's more prominent of the outfits of the day, what players are wearing, how they look ahead of training, and what they wear on the weekend, that sort of vibe, catwalks, you see it all now. I think with the audience and the power that Arsenal have right now, I think they can do something really good in the slow fashion field. But producing obviously all these kits, I'm not sure if it's meeting that aim just yet. But thank you for everyone that voted in to the poll. I'm excited to do this on a weekly basis, and I thought I'd just add a little different question out there this week. But yeah, make sure you stay tuned on my story to see any future ones. And I hope that sort of addressed why I asked that question, because I feel like it's actually an important topic of conversation, as well as obviously admiring beautiful kits that Arsenal and Adidas combined are producing. So incomplete awe of it, but obviously there are things behind the scenes, and when you look on a deeper level, maybe we should look into as a club and as a fan base. But for now, we're going to admire the kits, and we're also going to move on to this week and how we've done in both the league but also in the Champions League. Inter Milan 1, Arsenal 0. I've leant back for this one. Feel like I should get comfy as we dive into the last 3 games, and we're starting with the Champions League game I just mentioned. Firstly, I just want to note that the admin's captions on Instagram are literally cracking me up, because they get shorter and shorter each game we're playing recently. Maybe that is because we're losing and it's pretty humbling and what else is there to say? But I just find it quite funny, to be honest. I think it's something like look forward to the next game, or Gunners, we've got you, or thanks for the support. Something just short and sweet, full stop. That's all you need to say. And to be fair, I think from that game, that is pretty much what we want to take away. I don't think we necessarily deserve to lose that game. My prediction, looking now, I predicted to be a 2-1 win because I said if Erdegaard's back, would definitely secure the dub with him and Rice. I was like, yeah, easy, mate. Obviously, it hasn't worked out like that. And I am gutted that it hasn't worked out like that, obviously. But I mean, it's not the end of our journey. It's not the end of our Champions League journey. It just means for the other games, we're going to have to push even harder. I do think, yeah, we definitely should have drawn that game. The work ethic we had just got a bit unlucky on the night, if I'm being honest. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens. But I'm going to keep that summary and reaction pretty short and sweet, just like the admin's captions, because I think my prediction was way too optimistic that I just humbled myself straight away. And I want to focus on the other games towards the end of the week because those I found them really exciting. I was at the Arsenal 5, Brighton 0 game, so living my best life. As I said, we won, put 5 goals past Brighton at the Emirates, and I was there. I was sat with my dad. I don't know if anyone knows, like Block 7. I don't know if anyone knows. If you've been to the Emirates, at Block 7, so it's sort of just behind the goal, but like slightly to the side, so you get to see the whole pitch basically. Lush view, and I can't even remember when the goals were, but there were a few down the. I think that it was 3 down the other end, and then two that we got to see. We got to see the Russo penalty literally in the last like 10 minutes of the game, which was so exciting. Honestly, love seeing that. And I think it was funny because I was seeing more cameras than actually watching it myself, because everyone was just like, oh my gosh, this is happening. And I think for Russo, starting off with Russo, I feel like I did this last week as well. For her, that was such a good confidence boost. I know I keep saying this, but I think it's just tricky to get goals in open play, and that's something obviously can work on. But I think it's really nice. McCabe picked up the ball, and I thought, oh, is McCabe gonna take this? Because obviously our normal penalty shooter Kim Little was off the pitch at that point, and I was like, perfect, it's gone to Russo. So happy Russo scored, obviously, which sort of just sealed the win. I mean, at that point of the game, there was no way that we were losing that game, but I think for us, it just sort of, why not? If you've got 4, why not get the 5th? So I'm really happy Russo did that, and I think she's got a lot of confidence. I know that Renee Slagers is really positive in her post-match, especially about Russo as well, so I think she's got the good support and good backing that maybe we were missing under the previous manager, potentially. I don't know, this is obviously me just creating rumours. No, it's obviously me just speculating it. But no, I'm very impressed with how Russo did, and as the team as a whole, I want to in particular, we need to give a big shout out to Mornham. Mornham's goal, I forgot my glasses, irrelevant, but it meant that I was looking down and she was running down the left outside the box, and jokingly, every time you get in the box, I might shoot, because I think that's our one issue that Arsenal, both men and women, you're just not taking the chances to shoot, and you miss 100% of the chances you don't take. And honestly, Mornham taking that chance, I'm still speechless. I am shocked, because when I saw it go in, like top right, we all just sort of went, oh, okay, it happened. Like standing up, cheering, not knowing what was going on. But I think it wasn't just a 5-0 win where, okay, yeah, it was easy goals, just little tap-ins. We actually put on a show, and I think that is the first time we've put on a show this season. Well, that is the first time we've put on a proper show this season, at home, under the lights, at night, with a new manager. And I know she's got 3 more games, but I'm kind of excited to see what she does in these 3 games. Obviously, it's only been a couple games in with her as the solo manager without Jonas Eidevall, who obviously resigned earlier this month. But I am just very, very excited to see what she can do in the next few games. And if she does well heading into the international break, there's no reason why we shouldn't stick with her. So I'm excited to see. Let me just see if there's any other notes I made. Oh, obviously, I put this one in caps actually. Brighton weren't an easy side though. And I think that is very true because, well, I wrote it, so I'd like to agree with myself. But I think it is true because in the first half, especially the midfield, it was so blocked. I mean, we're lucky we have Kim Little, and I think she was missing a little bit when she went off the pitch. Cooney Cross did well in the midfield, but I think Kim Little just brings this leadership and this control. She dominates the midfield spaces. Brighton did make it very difficult for Arsenal to keep that dominance in midfield. There was a lot of players, Simmons one in particular, defensive line. We probably could have won at least 8 or 9-0, but I think there were so many attacks that were stopped by her, so that was very impressive. I kind of was a little bit shocked about Fran Kirby because I feel like she wasn't as good as everyone's been hyping her up to be at Brighton recently. I've not watched Brighton fully in the matches before, so obviously this is me just going off highlights and little clips I see on social media and everything like that. But I know that when she was on the ball, she was sprinting, she was quick. She is a good player when she's on the ball, but I just feel like she didn't really have the opportunity to get on the ball much. Pretty much same for Nikita Paris. First half, there was a lot of good presses. I mean, obviously, we were seeing them right in front of us. There was a lot of good presses very far up, but little conversion rates, little were overturned. So luckily, we ended up keeping that clean sheet, which big up Zinsberger for as well. I predicted that Van Domselaar would be in the net, but it was Zinsberger, and she did a good job showing that she's still got it. She's still good despite last season. Towards the end, there was a lot of fan and a lot of rumours that she probably should be leaving. Myself included, thinking maybe this is her time to go. But I think her being here is just showing that she's good. She's good at what she's doing. So I'm excited to see her the next few games. But also I think it would be good to have a little mix up between her and Van Domselaar. I think it's good that we've got 2 goalies that we could put in basically. But overall, as a whole, I did predict last week on the Arsenal Humans podcast in the prediction section that this was going to be a 3-1 win for Arsenal. I exceeded my expectations. I got the win correct, but I also said that we wouldn't keep a clean sheet. So I'm happy that we got a couple extra goals, kept that clean sheet, and yeah, I'm very impressed with them, and it's making me excited for the rest of the season. I'm not getting deluded. I'm not thinking, oh yeah, we're now competing with City and Chelsea. But when they face each other next weekend, and in the future games, when they potentially drop points, hopefully, I'm praying, especially Chelsea, man, because honestly, I don't know how they haven't. Anyways, well, I know how they haven't, because they've got literally every game, there's about 10 different goal scorers. But the point is, we're still in this to get in the top 3 at least, and I think just securing Champions League should be our main aim, and also just building up a team under a new manager, getting that stability heading into next season. But even at Christmas, you know what? Let's not rule out this season. Let's not rule it out. I'm just excited right now. So, yay! I'm excited that Arsenal has given me that life back in terms of the women's side. Anyways, focusing on the men's side, Chelsea won, Arsenal won. I did predict it to be a tight game. I said it was going to be 3-2 to Arsenal. And to be fair, I feel like we deserved for it to be 3-2. Obviously, with Trossard towards the end, there were a few mistakes, to put it, I guess. And obviously, there were 2 goals that were offside. Havertz was offside, which is so tight. I think Chelsea got so lucky with that. I mean, I looked at it and I was like, yes, it is offside. But it was so marginal, so tight that it is just very harsh, in my opinion. But then, obviously, Chelsea got their goal offside as well. So, could have gone either way. And I think a draw, when I was thinking about heading to Stamford Bridge, I was thinking before the game, I was chatting to some friends and I was like, yeah, probably a 2-2. I was like, probably a 2-2, because I was expecting a few more goals, and technically it was 2-2. But obviously, my little Arsenal bias was hoping 3-2. Didn't quite work out like that. But I think there were some good takeaways from the game. We really, really tried. I feel like our work ethic was very good, and it was being rewarded earlier on in the game. Obviously, the goal was offside, but it was getting rewarded. I think it's just in terms of communication, maybe in the final third, that needs to sort of tighten up a little bit. Martinelli's goal was beautiful, little solo effort, right-footed. I don't know how he found it. It was such a tight angle, but he found the net, and I'm so grateful that he did that. Obviously, Neto literally walked through our whole team, which is pretty crazy. Don't really feel like that should be happening. But you know, he's a baller, so he was a good player that just could do that, and I think with his pace as well. So yeah, we did let ourselves down in certain spaces and certain areas, but I was just so happy that Rice and Ødegaard started. I did sort of expect a little bit more. I did expect that win when I saw that lineup. I think both teams had a good strong lineup. Obviously found out Rice had a broken toe or something like that before the game, so I wasn't feeling majorly confident. Because I feel like he is injured, but he wasn't injured, but he was still playing. So, you know, I do feel like that is what Arteta has been most worried about, leaving that game behind. But yeah, overall, another wrong score prediction from me. So I've actually got 2 out of 3 correct in terms of who's won, who's drawn, or who's lost, but not the actual score prediction. So technically 0, which is humbling. But it has been a good week of football, and I've loved the fact that we had 3 games this week. So there was a lot of football to watch. But let's take a look at next week's football, because we have 2 games coming up. One which is basically probably kicked off now by the time this is out, and then one that is happening at the weekend. So let's get into that. Perfect. Okay, so we're at the last part of this episode today. Same as last week, will be the same as next week, where we chat about the predictions. And this week we have 2 games coming up for you Arsenal fans, so I'm buzzing about it. Considering we have an international break as well, that is pretty good going. But yeah, obviously, as I just said, the men will be on their international break, which I think is very good timing. Normally, I'm like, oh, I just want to keep watching football. I don't want to have to be so stoppy and starty. And obviously, there's always that likelihood, which, touch wood, again, doesn't happen. But there is always that chance that they could get injured playing for their country. And that is not something we want if we're trying to chase that title, which is still there. Liverpool is sort of running away with it a little bit, but I think it is still sort of there. So I think overall this is a good time for us to make sure our players get back fit, reflect, regroup as a whole, hopefully get their heads in the game, so that when we face Forest, which is our next game, and that will be a tough game. It is no easy game right now. I mean, I don't think anyone saw it when we first entered this season, but Forest are doing very well this season. I mean, the likes of Chris Wood, he is shining at Newcastle. Eddie Howe's come out and spoken about how he could see that he had that potential, but now he is showing it through the goals. And yeah, that is something we will chat about more in next week's episode, so make sure you stay tuned for next Tuesday's episode. But for now, that is all we need to talk about the men's team in terms of predictions, because this week we have 2 games that the women will be playing in. One which is kicking off. I'm hoping I get this pod in just before edited and published, just before kickoff. But kickoff is tonight, and it is against Juventus, away to Juventus in the Women's Champions League. This is a team that the last 2 times we played them, Arsenal won once and drew once. They're no easy team. I mean, that stat sort of shows that we are the favourites, and I feel like if you look at any sort of publishing article or any video about it, we are the favourites, and I am looking for that win. But I don't think it's going to be a necessarily easy game. I know that Juventus, they're on very good form right now, and they will be bringing out their a good solid team. So I'm hoping, my prediction is 1-0 to Arsenal. I think with the likes of Marona Caldenti, because Slager's mentioned in her press conference today, well, technically yesterday by the time this video goes out, that she's back from injury. So I'm excited to see how she does. And I feel like her ability is very underrated. I've heard creators comment on her ability, and I think they really undersell her value. And when you see her with the ball at her feet, it's like she's in complete control. She can run rings around you, and her strength she brings, I'm excited to have her back in the squad. I mean, if we look at our game on Brighton, we're entering this game very confident. 5 goals from different goal scorers as well. So we have a lot of confidence going into this game. And yeah, I don't see why we couldn't get the win, but I don't want to be overly confident and say a 2-3-0. But I do think we can get that nice classic Arsenal 1-0, hopefully, tonight. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm really hoping that this proves another time that Slager is good for us and that we should keep her. So we'll have to see. But no, I am excited. I'm excited about that game. We'll be watching that one from my room. And then we look ahead to the weekend. On Saturday, I'm gutted I'm away. I'm seeing some friends, which I'm very excited about. Very much needed break. But I'm gutted that I'll be missing this weekend of the WSL, because it's quite a special weekend. All the men's teams in England are on their international break, their international duties, which means that all the WSL teams get to play in their club's main stadiums. So this North London derby, which Arsenal will be playing in, on Saturday will be at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, a stadium I never actually want to return to, so maybe it's quite good in hindsight that I'm actually going away, because my last experience there was the humbling, very, 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 very humbling 1-0 defeat. I went with my friend Meg, and I hope she's listening to this, even though she supports Spurs. I went with my friend Meg, and she was loving it. She was living her best life. I think we both went into it thinking, yeah, easy dub for Arsenal. The North London derby in the WSL has never been the same as the Premier League. In the Premier League, there's a lot of competition, there's a lot of rivalry. I mean, the history you go back of how obviously Arsenal started as a South London club, big up South London, and then they progressed to North London, and then there's this derby that has been created out of it. So much conflict, so much passion that goes into this game. Whereas for the WSL, Arsenal have been leading the way for so many years, and this isn't my bias, this is just facts. If you look back at our trophy field history, we've been leading the way, so the difference, it's not as passionate. But what I'm loving is in the last few years, so when I first started going about 10-15 years ago, I don't even know, probably 10 years ago now, it wasn't as feisty, there wasn't as much competition because Spurs weren't actually in the WSL at that point. I think it just shows the disparity between the two clubs, whereas now there is that passion, it is getting fueled, and I think by Spurs winning last season it showed us that, okay, we won 50% of the North London derbies last year. So as much as North London is red currently, whether it stays that way, it's not always guaranteed. For me, I do predict that we will win 3-1. I think I can't put it as a clean sheet because we know that they can score and they do show up. I think you've seen their socials, they're really hyping it up because it is a derby at the end of the day, probably one of the best derbies in football as a whole, men's or women's. So we shouldn't lose. I'd be very shocked. I'd be very surprised if we lose against Spurs at the weekend, not going to lie. I'd be very gutted. I would then question Slager's future at the club for sure, but I don't really see that happening, if I'm honest. I feel quite confident. Hopefully I haven't jinxed it. But I just think if you look at us and our form recently, we've got a new manager and we've got that fresh energy. Obviously it is dependent on what happens tonight in the Champions League game, but I think, yeah, if you look at us, we are pretty solid coming back with a 5-0 win, and hopefully whatever happens in the Champions League. Whereas if you look at Spurs, they've just lost 4-0 to City. We drew to City, and City are one of the title contenders, so it shows that we're still up there, whether the points reflect that or not. But obviously they have players like Jessica Naz, who I think is one of the best upcoming players, best upcoming lionesses there is. So she's obviously a threat, but I guarantee we'll get that dub. I think the atmosphere should be good. I'm excited to see what it looks like on socials, and hopefully that prediction comes right. I do think my predictions are a little bit more realistic, and I do think these are nicer games that we should feel more comfortable in. It's just whether the team shows up and whether we're switched on, basically. But yeah, that is my predictions. That is the last part of today's episode. Honestly, thank you so much for watching today's episode. If you got to this point, I'm impressed because I do waffle a lot, and especially if you're not an Arsenal fan, even more impressed because it's so Arsenal heavy over here at the Arsenal Humans. But if you did like it, like the video, subscribe. I'm really happy that I've got 100 subscribers. I know it might not seem a lot because if you compare to other YouTubers and everyone, but I've literally just started this. So I'm really happy that I've already got a few of you guys following, but I want to keep increasing that week on week, and this is a regular podcast that will come out every Tuesday, so I can guarantee you'll have at least one video to watch a week. So it's worth the subscription if you ask me, you know, and it's free. Get it. And yeah, if you're listening on Spotify, please follow, even rate it. Someone rated me, and I think because they were from America, it now says American football, which obviously it's not. But hopefully with a few more ratings, you know, it might be able to change. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed, and make sure you stay tuned for next week's episode, which will come out on Tuesday, same as this one.